So in this video, we're going to see about import and packages. Okay, usually what happens, we'll be having a function within our Python file. So whenever there is a need for us to use it, we'll be using that. So that is what we call it as functions. Okay, and the function can further be wrapped around with the class, so you can have that extendability feature as well. And on the other way around, you can use your Python file as a package. You know that what is package, right? When one file is available in common, where a lot of files can go and access, that is what we call it as package. Correct. So we see a lot of libraries like import datetime, import multi-threading, import threading. So what are those? Those are all inbuilt package which you're trying to access it for the usage. Similarly, we're gonna make our own Python code as a package so that we will be using it whenever, wherever there is a need. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create two files for the matter. First file, I'm going to name it as, I'm going to save here in desktop. Okay. So I'm going to show like Python. Let me keep everything in a small Python file 1. Similarly, I'm going to create another file in the name of Python space file space 2. Let everything be smaller cases. Now I have two files, basically a Python file. So what I'm going to do is that in one of the files, so stay, in Python file 1, I'm going to declare a variable and function, a small demonstration. Okay. So look at that. My data is equal to Python def my function is equal to print of import and packages. So basically when I want to access this file, what I'll be doing? I'll be directly printing this, correct? My data followed by the call of the particular function. So when I run, this will run automatically. This is the usual process or usual way the code get executed. Now I'm going to have a bit of a deviation here. What I'm going to do is that I'm not going to call this within the file itself. So I'm going to make this as a kind of a package where I'm going to use this package in my another file using a import. That's what we call it as import and package. So let me take another file which I in fact created on the same folder. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put this import Python underscore file underscore 1. Basically what I'm trying to do here is that I'm trying to take the path reference of that particular file. So import in anywhere you see in Python program or you see as a part of a Python program means it is trying to tell you the directory reference, path reference. That's what import is all about. For example, if I want to buy something, say, laptops, headsets, calculator, anything. So first I need to tell somebody or I need to tell somebody about the address of that particular shop where they're supposed to buy things. So import is similar to that. So when they want to buy something, what they have to do? They have to go to that place and they need to get the particulars or the content or the things that they need, right? Similarly, now you have the file imported here. So if I want to read something from that file, you need to do this one. Print Python underscore file underscore 1 dot my data, because from that particular file you're going to get the data. Similarly, to call a function, you need to actually use the file name every time like this. So when you run, there you see. Now what happened? The content that is exist on file 1 is now retrieved or now it is readable in file 2. Why? Because I have imported the particular file into this file. Okay. Now there are a lot of questions that needs to be answered here. The first question is that, see, I directly imported here, so it's work fine. Does it mean that in my system that I can import in any folder or I can import this file anywhere? Definitely no. Now, every Python file that you people are associated with has some path reference. For example, if somebody wants to meet me, right? they can come at me, but they know only few places. They can come to my home, or they can come to the place where I'm working, or they can come to the institute where I'm teaching this kind of a Python training, right? So now that particular guy has a visibility to these three, addresses only. Similarly, all the files that you associate in Python in a system will have some common folder reference. So one such common folder reference is your current folder. Irrespective of whatever happens, your code will always travel via the current directory. Always it travels via the current directory. That is first and foremost. Okay. What are the other two libraries, or what are the other paths that it usually has a reference? Second one is, it's very usual, the path where Python got installed, because that's nature, right? So every Python idle or the Python screen or the Python editor will have the visibility over the folder where Python got installed. So either you can keep it in the current directory, or you can keep it inside a Python folder for having a direct reference. Excluding these two, there is another path where your Python can have the reference. Okay, that can be achieved via two things. One, a temporary path or a permanent path. So permanent path is what we call it as Python path. I'm going to explain in detail, but I'm just giving you oral, indication. So Python path. So Python path is a path where I'm taking this or any path, and I'm going to store as a part of a system variable with Python path as a variable name. So these three are the actual reference a single file can have. So what happened when you try to use import, and the file that you was trying to import, if available in this folder, then you will have the accessibility. And the first is already been evident to you. I had both these files in my same folder. So obviously, right, it is going to have the reference. Okay. And when I run this code, if you go and look at the folder, look at this. A PyCatch folder got created. We have already discussed on the initial videos that a PyCatch is the principle. PyCatch is the principle that is part of your Python program, that every Python that you runs on a system will get converted into a bytecode at the background for your system to understand. Okay, that process will be taken care by the concept called C Python, the program language that returns are made up of C language, C Python. So when you open this PyCatch, look at that Python underscore file underscore one. Basically, the file that you had as a reference is now compiled here. So that's what I told. When somebody asks you that whether Python is a interpreter or a compiled program, you tell them that Python by default is an interpreter program, but at times when there is a situation that demands, it does a compilation. Okay, and also every code, see, Python, your system or your laptop or your computer doesn't know what is Python, but basically it understands it zeros and ones. So every code that you write needs to be converted into zeros and ones. So that particular part of conversion from Python language to zeros and ones will be taken care by this C Python mechanism. That's how it works. Okay. So this is the first evidence. Yes, you can, if you want, you can delete also. It's not an issue, because anyhow, when you run it for the second time, it will create the catch file. Why catch? You know that, right? The usual working of catch. First time it will refer the actual file. Next time it will just get the data from the compiled version. So that's what usually compile, right? Compile, catch, cookies, model of it is related. So now what we did was basically we kept two file. The file which is I'm going to use as a reference, or the file which I'm using it in the same folder, and it is very evident that that is getting accessed. Fine. And orally, I told that what are the paths that a specific file can support by default. Okay. And if you want to see that through the code, the list of folders that this particular Python supports, you can use this library. Import sys followed by sys.path. If you run, it will highlight you the list of path my current Python file can have the reference to it. Since I started showing the example again and again, right, I add a lot of files as a Python path. That's why it is displaying entirely. But precisely, if you look closely, first thing always your current folder. And if you look at the rest of the things up to almost this, is all your Python file, except for a few things. Look at this. This is not the default one. This is something that I added as a Python path and show to this folder. So to this folder. But rest of the cases like C drive user 91897 desktop, this is something that I've added. So if look at that other program, look at it. These are Python inbuilt ones. So basically, current folder, Python folder, or the path that I'm set as a Python path that will get displayed over here. Okay. Now I'll tell you the example. Look at that. I'm going to close this file. Okay. Now I'm going to take this file from this folder. Okay. I placed it outside. Now I'm just going to create another folder called reference folder just for showcasing. I'm kept it here. Now, when I go and run this file, look at that last line. It says, Mohan, I'm sorry, I cannot find such file. But you and I know that there is a file exists, but unfortunately, now what happened? That file is sitting inside some other folder which your actual Python doesn't have the path reference over it. Okay, so this is what I told. To have a reference, it should basically be one among the folder that is displayed as a system path as output you see it, right? So now what you're supposed to do, you need to set that as a Python path. At times when you work for clients, right, there is no need for you to set something permanently. You can use it temporarily. How to do it? Just copy this folder. Okay. Come back to your Python file and do this. Sys that path that append. So now you are requesting your system to accept this specific path also as their system path. What you're trying to do? You're trying to let your system to accept this temporary path. So I just added here. So make sure that you put always R before the path for have the proper path reference. So now when I run, look at that. Now these two data is getting printed. So basically what? This is what I told, temporary path setting. So now this path will be available only during this code execution. It's not a permanent path setting. At times, if needed, you can have the permanent path setting. Fine. Okay, this is how you can refer a file. Good.